Hello my friends and welcome back to another video where today we will be discussing storytelling, politics and political drama in Amazon's The Lord of the Rings on Prime. Before we continue, this isn't a video on whether Amazon should or shouldn't push modern day politics into the show. That's a completely different topic for a different day, which I doubt will come. Today we will be discussing the potential of a more Machiavellian setting for the show, which admittedly would have been the better phrase for the title. For those of you that don't know, however, according to Cambridge Dictionary, Machiavellian is, quote, using clever but often dishonest methods that deceive people so that you win power or control, end quote. However, some might be wondering, why are we discussing political drama for this Amazon show based on Tolkien's works? Well, there are actually a few reasons. Firstly, and most obviously, whether liked or not, Game of Thrones had a lot of political maneuvering, deceiving, drama, which also seems to be a common theme with popular fantasy shows at the moment. Therefore, I think the total omission of any sort of continental or regional politics in Middle-earth or Númenor would be quite naive, and there will be elements of Machiavellian traits in the show. At the same time though, the Second Age is quite a perfect choice if this is one of the ambitions of Amazon. I know stating the Second Age is quite a loose term due to it being over 3,300 years in length, but for example in The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit's more fleshed out narratives, even though you can argue there is potential Machiavellian instability with the betrayal of Saruman and the actions of Denethor, but all in all not to the grand extent of other fantasy, and that is intentional by the professor himself. But the Second Age, and especially the internal politics of the island kingdom of Númenor, can be greatly explored and adapted by Amazon, with late Númenor truly giving Amazon an excellent basis to fully show betrayal, manipulation, usurping, etc. We will return to that later on, however, as the use of political movement and tactics can be used by Amazon actually to their advantage and benefit if they are telling the story of the forging of the rings and the mid-Second Age. In Middle-earth at the time, we have Lindon and Mithlond, which has Gil-galad, Elrond and Círdan and so on, and then we move over to Eregion with the capital Ost in Ethil, having Celebrimbor, the Lord of Eregion, and Annatar, the Lord of Gifts. Then on their doorstep we have the dwarves with Narvi and Durin the Third. So many kingdoms and races split apart, and the use of diplomatic journeys or special envoys from one kingdom to another could be used by Amazon. For example, from some recent leaks, we have found out that Robert Aramyo, who is strongly rumoured to be playing Elrond, will visit and be with dwarves for a certain period in the show. Maybe this could be an example of Elrond serving as a political envoy from Lindon to Khazad-Dum to not have kingdoms in the show fully isolated but connected. However, if you want a lore-accurate version of potential political envoys or relationships, the relationship of Narvi the Dwarf from Khazad-Dum and Celebrimbor from Eregion is another example of linking kingdoms together. Even the construction of the door of Durin could exemplify the alliance between the elves and dwarves, but overshadows later on when the War of the Elves and Sauron begins. When Sauron attacks Eregion, the dwarves seal their doors to the rest of the world, effectively betraying their friendship and allowing the sack of Eregion. Finally, to wrap up this earlier period of the Second Age, the role Annatar plays is the definition of deceiving, which is actually a part of the definition of Machiavellian. But I won't go labelling everything as political drama, etc, but parts of the role of Annatar does express some, as he first goes to Lindon, gets rejected, and Gil-galad, Galadriel, etc. all thought there was something off about this Lord of Gifts, but then they find out later on that Annatar is now in Eregion and accepted by Celebrimbor and the Great Iron. This could cause some underlying tension and worry for the elves, especially Gil-galad and co from afar, seeing what this Annatar is now doing in Eregion and his true intentions. Amazon has a lot of space to work with here. Before we move on, some honourable mentions I will give is the letter sent to Tar-Minelda from Gil-galad warning the Númenorian king of the quote rising shadow in the east, and then later on during the War of the Elves and Sauron, and whether Númenor should intervene and help save Middle-earth. But of course, where the true nitty-gritty political drama, deceit, revenge, usurping all occurs is in the later periods of the Second Age, which would relay into excellent on-screen television drama. This truly begins with the reign of Tar-Palante and the beginning of the political factions of the Kingsmen versus the Faithful. However, for context, a lot of the kings before Palante openly resented the Valar and the West until his rule, where he converted back to Tar instead of Ar and supported the Valar, and the ban of the Valar opposed on the Númenorians. However, this brought a lot of rebellion and backlash, especially from Pharazon. Already here, you can clearly see an island nation descending into darkness and civil strife, with rebellions against kings and the tension that would create for future rulers. Of course, Tar-Palante has a daughter called Miriel, who was meant to be the fourth ruling queen until her cousin Pharazon marries her unwillingly as his wife and seized the scepter of Númenor, effectively usurping the crown from the true heir, and the whole rule of Pharazon here on out is full of political drama. The most political the show can get is through the Faithful versus the Kingsmen in Númenor, and the two factions clashing over whether to support or attack the Valar and Valinor. Elendil, Isildur, Amundil all still trying to maintain the support for the Valar in Númenor, but their initial defeat, which can be seen through the sinking of the Island Kingdom and Pharazon sending a fleet to Valinor. Of course, the main person of interest throughout all of this is Sauron, who after getting captured rises through the Númenorian political hierarchy to become the advisor of the king, and the effect and manipulation he has on Pharazon is deceit of the highest level. Throughout the entire Second Age in different kingdoms, we could also see the courts of each of these places, for example the court of Lindon, which would include Gil-galad, Elrond and Círdan, with a lot of the Númenorian court being invented. An interesting possibility for Amazon is to make some of the court members of Númenor being the three later ring wraiths. As you know, 3 were from Númenor, including the Witch King, and having them ingrained in Númenorian politics before being twisted and transformed could give a rich background to these characters that would just later appear in wraith form, or would make their descent into darkness even greater. I am sure this has only touched the surface of all the political drama we could see in the show, with some omissions like Númenorian expansion and colonizing policies being quite controversial as well, and can be an entirely separate video. I am sure there are many more, and please leave them in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, but until the next video my friends, goodbye.